This is Bedtime Stories, Grown-Up Edition, The Truth, Part 15. When we left off, Donovan had used those deductive reasoning skills of his to figure out that Maribel's patient was true. He'd given her some good ideas about ways to keep Wood invested in the pregnancy. And when she told True about those ideas, True agreed. She also told True about what the Queen Mother told her about Amira. Meanwhile, in Puerto Rico, Q had sat Big Wood down. Big Wood was way too emotional. He wasn't able to think clearly and make good business decisions. Yes, something needed to be done, but not flying off the handle all willy-nilly. And clearly, Angela was on the same page. Because when the Queen Mother went to see her in Texas, she pulled a line from Cash Doll and said, "I heard y'all was looking for me. Here I go." Angela ran her plan down to the Queen Mother, and the Queen Mother said, "So, this has to remain between you and I. For obvious reasons, no one else can know that you're doing this. If there are any other questions about True, you send them my way. And if you need anything from anybody, you let me know, and I'll put it in motion. We're going to have to increase your security, and I'm going to have to keep your husband busy. And so we clear. The same rules that apply to Salema apply to you, ma'am. If it even looked like the wind gonna blow too hard, you get out of the way." Angela asked, "But what if I'm the one making the wind blow?" Queen Mother said, "Okay, Twin 2.0. I knew that you and Catherine had been talking a whole lot more here lately, but I had no idea she was putting you on like that. I thought you were helping her with the triplets." Angela said, "I have been. And in return, she's been giving me the game. Believe me, I tried to resist. But then I became suspicious of her. And I realized that the only way I was going to be able to rule her out as one of the potential players in this game, in this war against my husband, was if I played along. And when I did, I realized that she and I have a lot in common. While my husband is not a philanderer like Nigel was, and I still have no interest in being the queen pin, I am more than capable of pulling strings in the background. And while I'm not a killer, Stanley just might push me. He and Amir conspired to put my daughter in danger, and I don't play about my children." Now, Catherine made the connection between Amir and Stanley, and True made the connection between Stanley and Jerry Rouse. But it was Melissa who made the connection between Stanley and the man she killed in her dorm room. And that was all I needed to know. The Queen Mother said, "When I get my hands on Stanley, it's gonna break Nadia and Anand's heart, but..." Angela said, "Don't worry about it. I'll handle it." The Queen Mother said, "What about Idra? You don't think..." Angela said, "I don't know, but we'll find out. And as soon as I have all the information that I need, I'll call a roundtable." The Queen Mother said, "Okay, Big Ange." Meanwhile, in Puerto Rico, Lorenzo just found Big Wood. He said, "I need to see one of your phones, whichever one is secure and you don't mind having connected to the Lopez family server." Wood said, "For what?" Lorenzo said, "I don't know." Wood said, "Let me get this straight. You want my phone. You want to put something on my phone, but you don't know why?" Lorenzo said, "Right." Wood said, "Come on, man. You're going to have to make this make sense." Lorenzo said, "No, I don't. I just spent 2 hours setting this server up for you. Do you know what time dinner was?" Wood looked at his watch and was like, "It was like an hour ago." Lorenzo said, "Right. That means that I missed dinner. I don't heat up food. It doesn't taste the same. I missed dinner setting up a server for you. I don't have to make anything make sense. Give me the phone. I'm hungry." Big Wood just handed Lorenzo a phone because he already knew that Lorenzo was coming up off no information until his stomach was full. And since he trusted Lorenzo, there was no need to give him a hard time. Lorenzo said, "Now your sister said that my replacement dinner will be ready in 7 minutes. After I eat, I'll get you all set up and I'll bring the phone back." Wood said, "And then you'll..." And before he could finish asking, Lorenzo had walked off with the phone. Wood just laughed because he knew that Lorenzo was not trying to be rude. As a person on the spectrum who was hungry, he couldn't possibly think or talk about anything else until he got that food in his stomach. He reminded Wood of Melissa, while Melissa reminded him of Lorenzo. Thinking of Melissa, he realized that he needed to give baby girl a call. When he got Melissa on the phone, she didn't sound like she was in too good of a mood. He said, "Let me guess, you ain't eat dinner either?" Melissa said, "Huh?" Wood said, "Never mind. What's up with you, baby girl? Melissa said, nothing. I was just sitting here thinking. Big Wood said, what you thinking about? Melissa said, I was just thinking about our conversation. Remember when I said that I hoped that your son would be just like you? Big Wood just laughed and said, yeah, I remember that. Melissa said, well, I hope that he's better than you. As a matter of fact, I hope you don't name him after you. And Big Wood was taken aback. He said, help me understand, baby girl. Melissa said, today at school, we were learning about names and the power of names and how God changed people's names in the Bible and how people change their names too. And one of the stories we were reading about was Rachel and Jacob. She was supposed to be his first wife, but she ended up being his second wife. Eventually, God blessed her with a son, Joseph. And then, when she was in labor with her second son, the labor was so bad that she decided to name him Ben-Oni, son of my troubles. And then she died. And Jacob decided to change his name to Benjamin. That's your name, Uncle Wood. It means son of my right hand. Because Jacob expected for Joseph to be on his left and Benjamin to be on his right. They were the sons that he made with his favorite wife. Big Wood was following, but he did not know where this was going. Melissa said, names are powerful, Uncle Wood. And if you name your son after you, you might just continue a generational curse. And Big Wood was flabbergasted. He said, all right, Melissa, you gonna have to give me more than that. Every man wants a namesake, and I am not my father. Melissa said, no, you're not your father, but you're a lot like him. He went through some bad things, and he learned how to turn his feelings off. And you went through some bad things, and you learned how to turn off yours. And he did some bad things that hurt you and your sisters. And now you're going to do some bad things that are going to hurt your kids. When Melissa said kids, Big Wood almost fainted. He said, all right, Melissa, True is pregnant. How many babies is she having? Melissa said, I don't know. But she's not the only one that's pregnant, right? Big Wood said, baby girl, I love you. I'm going to call you back. He hung up the phone and immediately called the Queen Mother, but she didn't answer. Big Wood went and found Manny and told him about the conversation with Melissa. And Manny said, I'm sorry, son, but you can't unring that bell. And absent putting a mirror and hiding too, it's nothing that we could possibly do to stop it. That train has left the station. Big Wood said, I'll handle it. I'll call Wise. When Big Wood called Wise, Wise was pissed. He said, so let me get this straight. You gave the okay for somebody, True, somebody else in the families, to off my sister? Because you might have gotten her pregnant. I get it. What she did was dead wrong. But whatever happened to women and children being off limits, Wood? And this is my sister we talking about here. Even after all the things that she's done, she does not deserve to die to make your life easier, nigga. So now Melissa done did some of her spooky stuff, and you think it's your baby, and now you want her to live. Wood said no. Now I want to be able to live with the things that I do. I want my name not to be a curse on my son's head. I wasn't thinking clearly when I said that. It was a lot going on. I had just been sat down. I had my hands tied. You know where your woman is. How your baby's doing. Ain't nobody hiding nothing from you. Wood and Wise were on FaceTime. And Salema had heard that entire conversation, needing to keep her husband and one of her closest friends from going to war. She interrupted and said, all right, Wood, what is it that you need us to do? Wood said, get her out of New York. When Wise and Wood got off the phone, Salema said, babe, you gotta try to understand. Wise said, and so does he. This ain't some random broad that he picked up at the bar. And even if it was, knocking her off would not be the solution. We're talking about a woman's life and an unborn child. I don't have a problem with what y'all do for a living. I come from the same place that Wood comes from. I understand why he made the life choices that he made. But this ain't business. It's personal. He took exception to True throwing Tasha off the deck of that boat because it wasn't business. And now because he got so much to lose, he was willing to give True or whoever the green light to take my sister out. Remove the fact that she's my sister from the equation. All of y'all have the power to change other people's lives with a word, a phone call, a nod. Ask Q why he didn't want the job. Because he knows that absolute power corrupts absolutely. And Salema had no response because her husband was right. Then why I said, I'm going home. I gotta protect my sister. Salema said, You can't call her on the phone? I can send a plane and security wise. Wise said no. She needs to know that I haven't abandoned her. Not to mention, if this is his baby, no matter how it was created, it deserves to have a father. That's not gonna happen. If my sister finds out they would put a hit out on her. Meanwhile, in parts unknown, True was preparing for a trip. But first, she wrote her first journal entry. When she was done, she grabbed her overnight bag, her bag of disguises, and her pack with all the tools that she would need to carry out the job. She boarded the Lopez plane with her assumed name on the manifest. On the plane, she made a phone call. She told her benefactor where she was heading and what she needed. And when the flight landed in New York, there was a chauffeured car waiting for her on the tarmac, and inside was Stax. He said, I'm glad I made the short list of people you trust, but you better hope your girl don't ask me if I seen you, 'cause I ain't lying to her for you. True said, she won't ask. Just watch my back, and if you can, take 'em alive. Meanwhile, in Puerto Rico, Lorenzo had finally had his dinner. He'd gotten the drive to the secure server connected to Big Wood's satellite phone. Showed him how to upload files of his own, like photos, voice notes, videos, and text files. Wood said, All right, cool, I got it. But what is this for, Zoe? Lorenzo just stared at Big Wood and handed him the phone back. When Wood looked at it, he saw a folder that said 20 weeks. And when he opened the folder, he saw a number of files. The first one was named 1, Read Me. And when he opened it, it was a text file that said, I'm halfway to the finish line. Soon enough, you'll know whether I'm a boy or a girl. My mommy thought that you should know that I'm about the size of a cantaloupe. I'm about 7 inches long, a little longer than the average 20-week gestation fetus. My hearing is developing, so mommy's been playing me classical music. I like it, because when she plays it, she can feel me move. And when Big Wood read that sentence, he almost cried. The note continued saying, My fingerprints are forming and my hair and nails are growing. My cartilage is turning into bone, and that bone marrow is producing blood cells. Mommy finally has a slight bump. She's gonna send you a picture, but you gotta promise not to try and analyze it and figure out where we are. Wood chuckled. The note went on. Mommy hasn't gained much weight, but I've been trying to change that. I've got a taste for steaks, chicken and waffles, and ice cream. Lots and lots of ice cream. And I've already let Mommy know that I plan to be a night owl, 'cause I'm busiest when Mommy's trying to sleep. Mommy says that if you were here with us, you'd rock us both to sleep. I know that if you could be here, you would be, but you've got important work to do. So if you focus on getting it done and not on things that you can't change, the stars will align and we'll be reunited before you know it. Until then, Mommy's decided to clue you in on what's going on with me inside. If you need help making sense of it, I'm sure you can find a woman who can point you in the right direction. Love, Genesis. Wood said, Genesis? Is that a boy or a girl name? Zoe said, I think it's gender neutral, but I don't know. Then Wood let the name roll around in his head for a few minutes. He said, I like it. Then he opened up file number 2. It was a video of a grainy screen with a black and white image that he couldn't make heads or tails of. He showed it to Lorenzo, and Lorenzo said, That's an ultrasound. That's a baby. Wood said, Where? Lorenzo said, Come on. And then he took Big Wood to his mother, Marisol. When he showed her the phone, she rotated it horizontally and pointed out everything that was being done on the screen. She said, That's the baby's head. It's the eye sockets, the nose structure, and the pouty lips. Wood said, Wow. Marisol said, That's the baby's chest, the abdomen, the arms, legs. Then she said, Oh, it looks like whoever did this ultrasound intentionally skipped over the genitals. Wood said, So you can't tell me if it's a boy or a girl? And then on the screen it said, Gender announcement in 7 days. And Marisol said, I guess it's going to be a surprise. There'll be some grand announcement. Wood said, wow. Then Marisol continued analyzing the ultrasound. She told Big Wood that the baby looked perfect. Everything was measuring perfectly, and that while it was certainly a 20-week fetus, it was big. And then, at the end of the video, he heard his baby's heartbeat, and Big Wood barely managed not to turn into a puddle. He said, nothing in the world would beat being there in person, but I don't know how to repay y'all for this. Thank you. Marisol said, I had nothing to do with this. Where did this come from? Where'd you get it? Wood said, I don't know. Zoe put it on my phone. Zoe said, I didn't put it on the phone. I put the link to the server on the phone. I was told to set up the server, make sure you had access and knew how to use it. I don't know where any of that came from. And Marisol just smiled. Her son was a tech genius, but he didn't make assumptions. He didn't guess. And he never tried to provide information that he did not have. If Wood asked the right questions, he'd get enough information to put two and two together. But he'd have to know the right questions to ask. And while he knew Lorenzo, he didn't know enough about how he thought to know the right questions to ask, which made this whole little plan perfect. Marisol said, well, you know what they say. Never look a gift horse in the mouth. Wood said, well, I know that they say that, but I don't know what that means. Marisol said, it means that when someone gives you a gift, you accept it graciously. You don't try to estimate the value. You don't try to determine its worth, because no matter the value that others have assigned to it, its worth, its real worth, can only be determined by the way that you care for it, how much you cherish it, how close you hold it, and how appreciative you are of it. If this is what you value, then it's priceless.